zoning on me here. Come on, wake up. Alright, look. These are my top 6 presidents, alright? Least to greatest. Or greatest to least, my bad. The first is Ike. I love my boy Ike. You can't call him Ike, only I can, alright? Then there's my boy FDR. Then there's JFK. There's Teddy Roosevelt. Then there's Nixon. See, like, Nixon did good stuff, but then Watergate, you know, I don't know. But then LBJ, you know. I mean, I tried to be fair, but then he did the whole Vietnam thing, and then he's my least favorite. So, you gotta remember this, alright? It's gonna be on the text. Come on, Pat, you're zoning on me here. Alright, Pat. I am one of 4 people teaching you this lesson on the Flowerpower of 1960's. So I'm teaching you the beliefs in freedom. Hippies were of the 1960s were teenagers of the baby boom era, so that means they were in large groups. You get that? Okay. They were generally Caucasian men, like 25 years of age. That's what they usually were, and they were middle-class people. Many accuse the hippies of being dreamers. A hippie is one who doesn't conform to society's standards and spoke in liberal attitude and lifestyle. They wanted a world based on peace, love, happiness, and they also wanted a living life to the fullest. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
Okay. Along with their beliefs and lifestyles came many slogans and symbols. These slogans were to help other people become aware of their purpose. Some of the slogans were Be Love, Flowerpower, and Peace on Earth. Have you ever heard of them?
Some of them.
Yeah, well, Flowerpower is the biggest one. The heart of the hippie identity was flowers because it expressed their movement all across the country. They thought living together in harmony was possible and necessary. The strong opposed violence in particular was the Vietnam War. They wanted to get the anti-war views heard. Hippies believed that the war was wrong and innocent Americans shouldn't be forced to fight. It was against their moral principles. Authorities would sometimes feel threatened by presence and ideas expressed by the hippies. Hippies embraced everyone regardless of color, faith, or gender, and were deeply concerned with ending segregation. Love is one of the words most commonly associated with the hippies. Hippies promoted love and peace. They protested the Vietnam War, and that was the biggest thing they protested. They were compassionate for all individuals and groups and did not believe in violence or hatred. But to hippies, this was the way of life, and no one was going to get in the way of their dreams and ambitions. They were young people who enjoyed life to its fullest. By protesting the Vietnam War and with the civil rights, they made a huge impact on America and the world. The goal of the movement of the hippies was to challenge authority, show that politics are personal and people don't need to get involved in other people's business, and a greater social tolerance. Some of the things helped end the legal segregation and the idea that women were second-class citizens. The hippies brought new ideas to the world and gave people new ideas of their freedom. Is that clear on it?
Yeah.
Is there any questions? Oh, yes, Pat.
So what did hippies do for fun?
Well, you see, okay, you gotta take me seriously. Not all hippies did this, okay? I was a hippie and never did it. But a lot of people think of hippies as drugs. So I'm gonna bring you over to Vince because Vince is the second person that will be teaching this lesson to you.
Hi, Pat. I'll tell you about all the drugs in the 60s. I'll talk to you about 3 drugs, the most popular ones that they like to use. First was marijuana. Then we have lysergic acid diethylamide, which is its chemical name. Most people know it as LSD or acid. Then psilocybin, which was the least popular of the 3. Magic mushrooms or shrooms, as they're mostly referred to as. First we have marijuana. It comes from the cannabis plant and has many street names such as pot, weed, ganja, reefer, too many. It was made illegal in the United States in 1937. It was rediscovered by the hippies in the 60s, and since then it's been common in our society. And its popularity increased until about 1978. Hippies like to use marijuana and all the drugs to rebel against authority and the Vietnam War. The effects of marijuana is increased appetite and heart rate, euphoria, laziness, muscle relaxation, dry eyes, mouth, and throat. But there are no long-term health effects if you long. Marijuana is mostly smoked. It can also be vaporized or baked into food, like cookies and brownies. Other big goods. Next we have LSD. LSD was first synthesized in 1938 in Switzerland by Albert Hofmann. He was a chemist. January 21st, 1966, the hippie movement was launched by an event known as the Trip Festival in the Haight-Ashbury area of San Francisco, where 10,000 people attended, and for most of them, they tried acid for the first time. That really is what launched the hippie movement. Psychedelic subcultures or countercultures were popping up nationwide from Los Angeles to New York, but it all started in San Francisco. In October of 1966, just 7 months after the Trips Festival, California criminalized LSD, and the U.S. banned it a year later. LSD is taken in a tablet or liquid form, and its effects set in about 30 to 60 minutes of taking it. Some of the effects are distortion in the user's sense of reality, and they will perceive images, sounds, and sensations that don't really exist. So Pat, the last drug we have is psilocybin. Most people refer to them or think of them as magic mushrooms or shrooms. It was the least popular of the three I'm telling you about. The effects are similar to LSD. The feeling lasts 4 to 5 hours, which is about half the time someone will experience on LSD. Within the first hour, you'll experience mental and physical relaxation, a sense of separation, mild euphoria, tingling, and hallucinations. The typical dose is 4 to 10 milligrams. LSD dose is more than that. And addiction is rare because people build a tolerance up to it very quickly, and it deters regular use. Do you have any questions?
Well, that's cool, but is there anything else to think of?
Hello, Pat. My name is Jerry, and I'm going to teach you about Woodstock and other musical influences of the 1960s. So, Woodstock is the biggest festival to date. 1 million people were supposed to be headed to Walk Hill, New York. However, the concert was, let me put my binder down. The concert was canceled in Walk Hill due to the citizens of the town didn't want all of these hippies and druggies and whatnot coming corrupting their town. So they moved it to Bethel, New York, to Max Yasker's farm. Now, the concert was supposed to help raise money for a new recording studio. However, when the concert, when tickets were sold to more than the 50,000 that they were supposed to be, they decided to just raise money. So over the 3 days, the 3 days leading up to the 3 days of the concert were very frenetic. They had to build the whole stage, fly everybody out, fly everybody in, which was a pain. People started showing up to the concert before that they were supposed to. So they were just breaking in the fences, which weren't even there. After about 100,000 people had broken in without paying for tickets, they decided to make the concert a free concert. And according to sources, it was the best 3 days of rock and roll in history. So some of the performers at Woodstock are some of the people that I have up on the walls. We'll get to them in a minute. But other performers that I do not have up here were Janis Joplin, Country Joe and the Fish, who else? There's many more. So 3 days opened up with Richie Havens performing a 6-song set. The first day of the concert, everything went according to plan. There wasn't any rain, there was nothing that needed to stop the concert for it. Day 2 rolls around, they started about 12 o'clock. Night 1, I forgot to mention, night 1 didn't end until 3 o'clock the next morning. 12 o'clock the next day, they started the second day. And that went until 6 o'clock the next morning of the Sunday, which was August 18th. No, 17th. It was on the 17th. So the morning of the 17th, they're still going. The Who played a 24-song set, which was 8 more than anyone else, including Jimi Hendrix, who played an 18-song set on day 3, or some say 4. So the concert lasted more than the 3 days it was supposed to. There was over 1 million people supposed to be going to this concert. However, they turned away 500,000 and only let 500,000 in. People were bathing in rivers, lakes, anywhere they could find. There was acid trips going on everywhere. People were smoking marijuana out of anything they could find. And there were shrooms, and there was any drug you can think of. People were drunk, running around everywhere. So by the time day 3 hit, people had already started to leave the concert, and no one really wanted to stay anymore. That night, there was only 150,000 people left on the farm. That day, Max Yasker came out and congratulated the people for what they had accomplished, with it being one of the biggest music festivals in history, and that it's going to go down in history as one of the greatest things that's ever happened. Jimi Hendrix's set on the day of August 18th didn't begin until 9 a.m., which was the Monday. By the time he finished his set, there was only 25,000 roughly left. During the festival, there was only 2 deaths, one by an overdose of heroin, and one was also killed by sleeping in a field and being run over by a tractor. There were 2 reported births. However, no one has come forward as saying that they were the Woodstock babies. So that's about Woodstock, and now I'm going to tell you about music and musical influences. The musical influences of the 60s. We're going to start with the Beatles. Now, the Beatles formed in '57 when John formed the Quarrymen. The day after their first concert as the Quarrymen, he found Paul McCartney, who was playing guitar backstage, and John thought, wow, this kid's really good. So he decided, hey, come join the band. Paul joined the band. So they found George Harrison a year later. He was one of their schoolmates and just decided, join the band, play some music. Their original drummer died in, I believe, '61. And in '62, their new record label found Ringo Starr. So some of their famous songs and albums are Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, Let It Be, which was their last album released in 1969 as a group, Hey Jude, Back in the USSR, Strawberry Fields Forever, and A Hard Day's Night. Now the band broke up in 1969, and in 1970, all 4 members of the band formed new albums. So moving on from the Beatles, we have Jimi Hendrix, one of the greatest guitar players of all time. Some of his songs include Purple Haze, Along the Watchtower, which we're going to talk about in a few minutes, Foxy Lady, Casameda Sand, Voodoo Child, and Angel. In '61, Hendrix was taken into the army after being given the alternative between jail and the army when he stole 2 cars, or was found riding in 2 cars that were stolen. He formed the Casuals with one of his friends who was in the army. He was discharged in '62 when he was found unfit to be in the army. His bandmate from the army left the army in '63, and they formed King Casuals. In '64, he went and joined Little Richard's The Upsetters. And in '66, Jimi Hendrix Experience was formed when he found a new manager and a new record label. The Rolling Stones, the Ageless Wonders. Rolling Stones have Brian Jones, who plays guitar, Mick Jagger, who plays vocals and the harmonica, Ian Stewart on piano, Keith Richards on guitar and also sings, Charlie Watts on drums, and Bill Wyman on bass. Some of their famous songs include Paint It Black, Satisfaction, and Ruby Tuesday. Now we're going to talk about some of the lesser popular bands, but still very prominent. So some other musical influences in the '60s include Bob Dylan, The Who, The Grateful Dead, The Doors, and the only Elvis Presley. Now, Elvis started singing and performing in 1954, and did so until 1977, till his death, when he was found in a bathroom before flying to Memphis, Tennessee to perform a concert. Now, some of Elvis's best songs of the '60s were In the Ghetto, Suspicious Minds, A Little Less Conversation, and Viva Las Vegas. Now the Doors started singing and performing in 65. Riders of the Storm, The End, Hello, I Love You, and Back Door were four of their better songs of the 60s. However, in 71, Jim Morrison died, but the band continued to play until 73. They have had a few get-togethers since then and played, and the most recent in 2001. Grateful Dead. They performed music in 1965 to 1995. Touch of Grey, Scarlet Begonias, Friend of the Devil, Ripple, and Sugar Magnolia were five of their more popular songs. The Who were in 64 to 82. They were on and off for numerous occasions. Baba O'Reilly, My Generation, Seeker, Pinball Wizard, which is actually one of my favorite songs, and Magic Bus were obviously one of their songs. Bob Dylan in 61 to the present, he's still performing today. Like a Rolling Stone, Blowing in the Wind, Knocking on Heaven's Door, Girl from the North Country, and All Along the Watchtower. Now, All Along the Watchtower was actually written by Bob Dylan, but made more famous by Jimi Hendrix. Bob Dylan was also he was very active in the civil rights movement and helping along and performing concerts for civil rights and whatnot. So there's a little history lesson for you on the music of the 60s. Any questions?
No, that's it.